I'd like to call a public hearing to order, dealing with ordinance 2307 regarding the operating and capital budget for fiscal year 2023-24. Is there anybody here to address the council on the amount of money we're gonna get ready to spend in the town of Irmo for next year? Nobody's here to hear that? Nobody's here to fuss at us about getting spent almost $10 million taxes? Okay. I will call that public hearing to close. And I'd like to open another public hearing on to receive comments on ordinance 2309, the non-exclusive franchise agreement with Loomis Fiber to run cable throughout the town of Irmo. Anybody here to address us on that issue? Oh, everybody's cool with that? All right, I'll close that public hearing. Open next public hearing to receive comments on ordinance 2311, the rezoning of tax map number R32020116 in regards to changing it from residential to fringe agricultural. Everybody's cool with that? All right, should be a quick meeting then. Call that public hearing to close. I'm now calling the June 27th, 2023 meeting of the Irmo Town Council to order. We'll start with the call to order and the pledge of allegiance, an invocation by Councilman Eric Sickinger. Will you all please rise?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible. Pray and pray that we wise decisions, a collegiate environment, do the best that we can for the people in this town. Pray, of course, that you protect first responders, and allow us to have a great meeting today for the people of Irmo. Amen.
Amen, thank you. Please be seated. We have received the minutes to our previous meetings electronically. We have received the minutes for May 16, 2023 electronically. Are there any, I'd like a motion for approval?
So moved.
Is there a second? A second. Are there any changes to the meeting minutes? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? It's the opinion of the chair that the ayes have it. We also received the reading of the minutes for June 6, 2023. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
And are there any changes to those minutes that we need to make? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 All opposed? In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. Report of standing, administrative briefing. We received that electronically also, the administrative briefing from our administrator. Are there any changes from Mr. Courtney from us? Seeing none, Mr. Dennis, do you have any changes of your administrative briefing for the council?
I have none.
No administrative briefing changes? Okay. New in-town businesses. Mr. Sickinger, do we have any new in-town businesses?
Yes, we do, Mr. Mayor. The purveyor of general goods, Bob Chrisman, Cola Bear Express Ice Cream, Infra Outdoor Sales, JKR Logistics, Lloyd's Soccer, Roxanne's Market, National Entertainment Network, Palmetto Trinity Holdings, Strand and Shade Hair Studio, Sweet Life, and the Stitchin' Kitchen.
Kitten.
Welcome to town.
What is that?
Kitten.
What is that?
Stitchin' Kitten.
What do they do?
We should visit them and find out.
Okay. Well, thank you, Mr. Stigginger. Are there any amendments to the agenda? Seeing none. Consideration communications. Will y'all join me down front? Where is the Velocinos? Oh, there you are. Come on up. Come on up. Yeah. Come on up. What's your name? Cheryl. Thank you. Hey, how you doing? Thank you. Yeah, just come up here and hang on to that for a second. Every month, we recognize a business in the town of Irmo of the great job they do by giving them recognition and giving you a plaque from the town of Irmo, and it gives you kind of authority to screw up one time, whenever you want to. No, I'm kidding. I'd like to read this to you. Presented to Bellacino's Pizza and Grinder in recognition of being the Small Business of the Month for the town of Irmo for June 2023. We are now presenting this to you.
Wow, thank
Get a
you.
picture.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
You can tell us a little bit about your business and
Oh, it's a labor of love. We've been doing it for over 26 years now. We started with the one in Lexington and moved to this one 3 years later and have been going strong. We are the original owners. Got a great crew, great town, can't beat our police force here. Everything's been great. Great little safe town, and we appreciate everybody and everyone's business, and hope to continue for a little bit longer.
yeah, and we enjoy you too. Go ahead. Now you put that up in
The store.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Yeah, yes, absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Thank
and
you guys very much.
Yes, congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah. Got it. We also have another presentation. This is a scholarship from the orchestra. Is Trenton Brooks in? Trenton Brooks. Come on up, Trenton Brooks. Congratulations. Again, and you have the orchestra members. Come on up, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Bank Ward. Every year we have the Orchestra Festival, and it generates hundreds of thousands of dollars in revenue. And we give out scholarships at the end of the day to deserving seniors that are going off to college. You're going off to college, right? Yes, sir. Okay. Deserving seniors going off to school, and we make sure that they know that their town is proud of them. We wish them big success. We hopefully will get them to come back and join the Irmo community as whatever you're going to school for. Bring your talents back to Irmo. But we want to give this to you. It's a $2,000 scholarship to help you start your college life off. And we present this to Trenton Brooks for the 2023 Lexington Medical Center Orchestra Scholarship. Tell us a little bit about your college and where you're going, Trent.
All right. Well, as you all probably have not known, I have been accepted to the University of North Carolina, Charlotte Honors College.
Ooh.
So I will be furthering my education there this coming fall of 2023. And while I'm there, I'm going to be getting my degree in mechanical engineering, where I will soon hope to take that even further and apply for Boston Dynamics and make robots for our future.
All right. Congratulations. Thank you, sir. And thank you so much. You got a good picture? They didn't have that major. Right? Got a good photograph? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Trent.
Congratulations. Thank you, Mike.
Okay, continuing on, we have Community Connect, this is Barb Wallman. We have Community Connections. Do we have any good ones, Ms. Wallman?
We actually have quite a few this month, and I haven't even included them all on this list, but these are ones that I thought were quite noteworthy. The first is that the District 5 is participating in the Summer Food Service Program again this summer. It runs from June 12th to July 28th, and this slide shows the various locations where parents can pick up food for their children during the summer. Students 18 and under can get free breakfast and lunch. If you need more information about the program, you should go to www.lexridge5.org. The next item I wanted to mention is the 4th of July celebration on Lake Murray. It will take place on Saturday, July 1st. This will have a boat parade at noon, and then at about 9:30 or so, fireworks shows over the lake. On Sunday, July 2nd at 5:05 p.m., there will be a military appreciation night at Segra Park. There will be pregame autographs and postgame kids run the bases. So that's something to do on Sunday. On July 3rd, the town of Irmo's Independence Day celebration will take place at the Community Park of Irmo. There will be a laser show. The gates will open at 7 p.m. The show will start at 9 p.m. And there will be free hot dogs provided by Capitol Building Services. On July 4th, there will be the annual Lexington County Peach Festival in Gilbert, South Carolina. That's at the Gilbert Community Park, and that's an all-day event. It starts at 8 a.m. and runs until 11 p.m. There's a lot of activities going on there during the day, so I suggest if you want more information on that, go to lexingtoncountypeachfestival.com. On July 8th, there will be a community park cruise-in and car show and the Silent Disco Festival in the Community Park of Irmo. And these two flyers have the information for those two events. The Silent Disco Festival runs from 5 to 10 p.m. And the final item I have tonight is an announcement of career open houses for certified and support staff. These will be held at Irmo High School and at Irmo Middle School on Thursday, July 13th. These are drop-in events, and the event at Irmo High School will take place between 10:30 a.m. and 11:30 a.m., whereas the drop-in at Irmo Middle will be from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. Again, that's on July 13th. That's all that I have, but I think Mr. Sickinger has something he would like to.
Yeah, I got it there.
Okay.
Okay. Also, I wanted to mention that we having at the Silent Disco, we're having a car show. This is a big, big deal for us. Not only will you be able to dance with your headphones on, but you can peruse through the crowds of vintage automobiles like yours, and we can have a good time and a good evening. It's going to be a big, full event. Thank you so much, Dr. Wallman. Moving on, are there any other communications that you have? Yes, yes, sir.
I want to invite Matt Schellinger from the American Legion up to speak. I've had a chance to work with them, and I'm excited about this event.
Can I get that microphone? Speak into the mic for us.
There we go. Hi, thank you. My name is Matthew Schellinger. I'm the event coordinator for the American Legion Post 174, located over there by Costco. I don't know if you've seen it or not, but you're welcome. We're having a car show also on the 8th of July, early morning, 9 to 1, raising money for local veterans in support of them. We have food, and we'd love to have everybody and anybody come out and join us.
Cool.
Hey, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I do have flyers. I put them on the table out there where the sign-up sheet is. Thank you.
Susan? Went to the one last year, that's why I said that. Okay, thank you. Want to recognize some new employees of the town of Irmo. This is a special deal for us. We are a small enough township that when we get new employees, I want to make sure that everybody knows that they're valued and who they are. And of course, I'll start with the police department. We have 4 new officers: Justin Pfeiffer, Tyler Baker, Richard Pasuka, Richard Pescara, and Caitlin Wyatt will all be donning the Irmo finest uniform and traveling around protecting our streets of Irmo. And I think by that, it's going to bring us up to almost close to being fully staffed. We're still down a couple of officers, but we're getting there. And I'm proud of y'all, the work you're doing. Thank you, Chief. Also, the town of Irmo has hired people in the administration. We have a new business development person. Her name is Anna Unversall. Raise your hand, Anna. Hey, Anna. Anna Unversall is our business development and communications person. Anything you see on Facebook that you don't like, it's her fault. And so we'll try to get our communications up and running, as quickly as possible. Now, we also have a new lady, Miss Joyce Dickerson. Joyce, you stand up, raise your hand. Joyce is our new human resource job at Irmo. You'll be sending your resume to Miss Joyce, and she will surely forward it to Courtney and help us fulfill all those jobs that we're getting people double worked on in that cramped office we have. So hope expand our wings and get more office space for you. But thank you, Miss Anna, and thank you, Miss Joyce, and thank you for the police officers for joining the town of Irmo. We're proud to have you. Other receipt of communications, Harbison Gardens. We now have 1 flock camera that's been installed. Chief, has it been working out? The flock camera that they have installed?
It has, it's still early, kind of testing phases.
Yeah.
That was the easiest one for Flock to basically solicit and get in the ground.
Right.
Because of permitting and everything.
I got
We
you.
found that working with DOT has been the basically taking the longest of anything of putting these cameras in.
I got you. But we got 1 up right now.
That's correct.
At least 1. Okay. And that's great. And I'm proud of the fact that we got that. I just want to let everybody in the community know we haven't stopped. We're going to have more installed throughout the entire town of Irmo, but this is the first one we got up and running. Also, the Harbison Gardens apartment complex has signed an MOU with the district. Remember I was telling you that, the problems we're having with the relationship between the city of Columbia, Harbison Gardens, and the town of Irmo. We're finally moving forward, getting some cooperation with the management company at the Harbison Gardens complex as well as the city of Columbia. But we have signed an MOU has been signed between the district, Lexington 5 District, and the Harbison Gardens Management Company to modify their lease agreements to include language for a violation of their code of conduct, meaning that if you have a problem violate their code of conduct, you can be subject to referral to the district. Any of your kids can be referred to the district, and then the district will get intervention to try to get them on track. And if that doesn't work out, then you may be subject for eviction out of the complex. So we're moving forward with that multi-pronged approach that I keep talking about. Also, if you haven't seen the paper, we have received a $500,000 state of South Carolina budget item, a budget appropriation. What that means is, and Irmo has never done this before, the town of Irmo has requested from our legislative delegation, our South Carolina legislative delegation, to include some help with building a new town hall. Now, we have some estimates about $3.5 million for this new facility. So just like I challenged the police department, I challenged our administrative department, our administrative officers also. Let's go out and find out how we can get grants, how we can get help to do these things and not just add them as a line item budget in our town budget. You know, we have a $9.5 million, approximately $9.5 million budget we might approve tonight. But I challenged them to go out and do that, and so they did. We lobbied our state legislator, Nathan Ballantyne, and our Senator Dick Harpootlian, and got them to add a $500,000 line item in the state budget. Well, it passed the House, it passed the Senate, it didn't get kicked out, it went back to the House, it got ratified in the House, and I believe the governor has signed the budget with some vetoes, but he didn't veto our appropriation. So that means basically when that's ratified and that's done, we will get a check for $500,000 towards our new town hall. But we didn't stop there. We went on and went to our federal legislative government. The House of Representative Joe Wilson, State Senate Tim Scott, and State Senator Lindsey Graham. Eric and I went to Washington and made a presentation about the proposed new town hall and asked them to add a line item budget in the federal budget for $3.5 million. That was ambitious, and we didn't get it, but we did get $1.6 million added in the federal budget. So now with any luck, if it doesn't get kicked out from the president, and if we get this all ratified, and they sign the federal budget in September, we were hoping to get another check from the federal government for $1.6 million towards our new town hall. Now, you do the math, quick math, it's $2.1 million for a $3.5 million building. I think that's a good win for our town. We don't have to worry about coming with all that money. But the town has never went after appropriations like that. And I'm proud to thank Courtney and his staff for doing that, challenging each other to do something that we've never done before and succeeding, as far as I'm concerned. But it's wonderful. It's a very good idea. We'll be talking more about this new town hall later on in the meeting. That's all I had. Is there any other communication, receipt of communication? Huh? Oh, yeah, we do. Okay. Is there any other receipt of communications from everybody? No? Okay, last but not least, I would like to recognize the Artist of the Quarter, Miss Trish Gilliam. If you look at her work, we have it displayed. Is that her work? Okay, yes, Artist of the Quarter, Trish Gilliam. If you see up there, we recognize Artists of the Month every month, somebody different. This month we're recognizing Trish Gilliam, and that's some examples of her work that's on display in the town hall annex, the town hall reception area. Please go by and take a look at it if you get a chance. Go by and observe it. I think she has her cards over there if you wanted to talk to her about other work she might have. But we are recognizing Miss Trish Gilliam as the Artist of the Month for the town of Irmo. Now, any other things that I might have missed? We have presentation by citizens. This is the point in time when the citizens can come up and let us know how they feel about our agenda, if they have any comments about our agenda items. And this is for agenda items only. And we're going to give you approximately 3 minutes to address us and let us know what we need to know before we vote and discuss on the items. We have several people that have signed up, and I'll start with Mr. Councilman Harvey Hoots. If you come up and address council, thank you.
Mr. Mayor and Council, my name is Harvey Hoots. Many of you may know me. I was on Irmo Town Council for 25 plus years. And I'm glad to be here to speak with you tonight about 2 items on the agenda, item F and item 0. I'm going to start with item F. This particular item bothers me. I believe that you're asking to do, what you're asking to do violates our town code that clearly outlines how and when town council meetings are to be held. I was on council for over 25 years. We never voted on any important issues without a full council seated, be it sick, vacation, business trips, whatever. We worked it all out so that all 5 people were seated and staring their constituents in the face. Are you saying that by doing so, that, and by having the digital meetings, that you're more important than we were? We never tried to hide behind the digital meetings. We didn't have them for a long time. We were always in front of the council. The council was always in front of their constituents when they cast votes. Digital may work fine. It may work fine sometimes for the good, for the bad, but never will it work for voting. You're being inconsiderate and violating of my rights to speak to any item on the agenda before you vote. I worked for several years with the council to get this on the agenda, to change the town code. How does taking that away from me now work? It doesn't. If you're too busy to come before your constituents that you ask for their vote, then I would suggest you consider resigning and leaving that spot open for somebody that cares about their constituents and their opinions. And I will leave those comments there. On item O, the new town hall, Mr. Mayor, town staff, I congratulate you on everything that was done to foster this money coming to the town. If it didn't come to the town, it would go somewhere else. So it's not like we're taking it away from something else. I congratulate you on taking care of those matters for the benefit of the citizenry of the town. On the second side of that, I don't know who in the world we were talking to in the town about what the town hall should look like, but what's been in the newspaper and been on social media shows that it looks like a 2-story storage building. I would admonish the town to do a lot more research. This is a railroad town. Everything about the town is built around that. Folks, don't destroy that. There was years of work done with the property that is now owned by Domino's to come up with something that kind of fit the motif of the town. Don't put a storage building as town hall. And I'll leave my comments with that. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Hoots, appreciate it. Mr. Mike Schellinger.
My apologies, Mr. Mayor. It was me signing up to
Oh,
talk,
okay,
and I've already talked, so thank you very much. I appreciate it.
no problem, thank you. Ms. Sandra Fulmer. Sandra Fulmer, thank you. You're not quitting, are you?
Little short.
Okay,
I'm Sandra, and I am one of the applicants for the Okerstruck Commission that you will discuss later tonight. I just wanted to introduce myself. I've been a resident of Irmo for about 37 years. It's been a minute or two, but I went to Irmo High School and graduated from there. Went to University of South Carolina with a degree in advertising and public relations. And then I worked at the university for 41 years. That was most of my time spent doing that. So now that I'm retired, I'm excited to do some more things for the town of Irmo. And I volunteered at the Ochre Strut last year and had an absolute blast doing it. I've attended all of their meetings since that time, and I'm just really excited about taking that next step to make the Strut something that Irmo's really proud of. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mike Ward, you want to wait for that? Okay, thank you. And Ms. Marie Ryan. Where is the link on the town website for the, is it a link on the first page? One second, Marie. Got it. Thank you. Sorry that, Ms. Marion. Come on.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I want to speak on item XF or 10F. Members of council and the mayor participating in council meetings by electronic communication, essentially Zoom, et cetera. There are 12 meetings a year for mayor and council. Logging in from wherever to participate will add some type of cost for the town to accommodate this request. State representatives are required to appear in person as well as members of Congress, et cetera. As a registered voter, homeowner, and member of the skate park committee, I don't feel my elected officials can accurately represent my interests if they can't attend 12 meetings a year and appear in person. That's it.
Thank you. Are there any other persons like to address council that did not sign the pad? This is your opportunity to come up and address council before we go on with our meeting. Anybody else? Seeing none? Oh, come on. I'm sorry, thank you. Your name, address, telephone number? No, just give us your name and number.
Good evening. My name is George Frazier. I'm the chairman of the events committee for the town of Irmo. I just want to, address council and just, you don't have to say anything. You can just nod your head. Do y'all appreciate the things that the Irmo Events Committee is doing? See one head nod, 2, 3. Okay, good. With that being said, we just had a Juneteenth celebration on Monday, which it was a very, very successful event, even though Mother Nature tried to spoil it, but she held out. We have tried to have a different event each month. Dr. Walman already showed a couple of events that we have going on. All I'm asking, because I saw a lot of head nods, that y'all are appreciating what we're doing. All I'm asking, if you guys appreciate what we're doing, we like to see the council stop by some of these events here. I'm not calling any names. You know who you are. You only see the same, view all the time. I'm looking at 5 members up there. It would be greatly appreciated moving forward that we get the council support for these events. Thank you.
Is there anybody else that would like to address council that did not sign the pad? Anybody else? All right, seeing none, we're going to move forward. Item 9, unfinished business, second reading of ordinance 2307. This is the ordinance to adopt our master fee schedule. We had first reading on that already. The master fee schedule is this is second reading of ordinance 2307 to adopt the operating capital expenditure budget that's proposed for 23-24. We had first reading of it already. That's second reading now. The budget proposed is $9,178,000 with an additional $100,750 for the orchestra. It's a total of $9,300,071 for the fiscal year 23-24. Is there a motion for a second and final reading of the ordinance for that budget?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Mr. Secretary, do you have any comments on it?
Money well spent. Thank you, Courtney and staff, for putting it together. And I don't agree with every penny, but I agree with 99%. So I'm good.
Okay. Bush. Okay. Dr. Wallman?
I agree with both Councilman Sickinger and Councilman Bush, and also just want to point out that this ordinance also includes the master fee schedule exhibit that's part of that budget.
And Mr. Danielson?
Got my PhD again. That's always a good thing. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. But yeah, I agree with this. We've fine-toothed this thing, beat this thing to death. So let's get it done.
And I as well agree. We're expected to spend $9,350,000.71 in the town of Irmo for fiscal year 23-24. That includes no millage rate, which taxes directly to the citizens, and zero debt, which means the town has no debt. I'm ecstatic about the fact that Courtney was able to wrangle this money around and make good use of it, and hopefully we can continue forward. Any more comments? Oh, and by the way, that includes the raises to the police department, which we are very competitive now. As y'all know, that other municipalities in the Midlands are imposing a millage rate increase, a tax increase on their citizens because of their ambitious goals of paying their police department hundreds of thousands of dollars and bringing that burden on to our citizens. But I, again, commend and Courtney for making it work and getting 4 new officers on board. Any other comments? Will the clerk read the roll?
Mr. Bush? Mr. Danielson?
Yes.
Mr. Sickinger?
Yes.
Dr. Waldman?
Yes.
And Mayor Walker?
Yes. Second reading of the grant to grant Loomis Fiber the non-exclusive franchise agreement. That's a public hearing we had. Is there a motion for second and final reading?
So moved.
And is there a second? Okay. Mr. Sickinger.
I'm in favor, and I'm glad that they came out to talk to us and provide us some contact people in the case of or the expectation of some issues as they put those lines in.
Dr. Wallman.
I agree. I think this will increase competition, but it would also increase coverage, fiber optic coverage in the town areas.
Okay. Mr. Danielson.
Yeah, with the focus, it seems, from the federal level on down about different types of fiber optics and broadband infrastructure and all those things. Competition is a good thing. I think we're going to hit some bumps on this thing. Somebody's service is going to be disrupted while we're digging holes, which I'm not looking forward to, but we'll handle those, and we have the right people that we can get immediately to handle that situation, so hopefully that goes well. I'm in support.
Thank you, and I agree with you, Mr. Danielson. We have access to the right people to call when they start drilling holes throughout the town to install this fiber optic network. And unlike other purveyors, we had to search around for them. We have those contact numbers up front. Any more comments? Will the clerk read the roll?
Mr. Bush? Mr. Danielson?
Yes.
Mr. Sickinger?
Yes.
Dr. Waldman?
Yes.
And Mayor Walker?
Yes. Second reading of ordinance 2310, that's going to correct the, some table languages and add appropriate table references in our zoning book, and Planning Commission recommended these changes. Is there a motion for second and final reading?
So moved.
Mr. Danielson? Mr. Bush? Okay. Mr. Danielson?
Yes, again, it's nice to know that we are working on these things, these items as they come up, so we don't have to hash all these details out. But this has been discussed and led by I want to thank Doug Pullen, our Assistant Town Administrator. I think that's your official title. I call you the development guy. But we certainly appreciate it, and I know Courtney appreciates it, so this is good work, and I fully support it.
Okay, Mr. Bush?
I mirror Dr. Danielson's comments and yield my time.
Dr. Wallman?
I agree.
Okay, and Mr. Sickinger?
Yield.
Okay. All right, will the clerk read the roll?
Mr. Bush?
Yay.
Mr. Danielson?
Yes.
Mr. Sickinger?
Yes.
Dr. Waldman?
Yes.
And Mayor Walker?
Yes. Second and final reading of ordinance 2311, rezone TMS R30-16. This is on the corner of Muskrat Run and Emerald Cove, from general residential to fringe agricultural. Planning Commission has recommended that. We debated this last time. Is there a second and final reading?
So moved.
Okay, Mr. Sickinger.
Yeah, it's as discussed last time, and I'm in favor. It hasn't changed, and no new information has come forward.
Mr. Bush. Dr. Wallman.
I agree with this change. It's appropriate for the planned use of the property.
Mr. Danielson.
I agree, and yield my time.
Okay. My only comment is that we're going from residential, general. Can you pull that up on the monitor? Pull that map up, yeah. Yeah. Slide, do you have that? There isn't? Okay. Well, I just want to point out that it's going to be in the middle of an RG district, RG zone district, this fringe agricultural district. And knowing that in fringe agricultural, yes, you can have a pig farm, you can have a horse farm, and you also can shoot your 380. Eric, that's the only place you can shoot a gun in town limits of Irmo. So I just wanted to make that point, but will the clerk read the roll? Is there any other comments?
I just wanted to point out that it is actually contiguous with some fringe agricultural property in that area already.
Okay. Any other comments? Will the clerk read the roll?
Mr. Bush? Mr. Danielson?
Yes.
Mr. Sickinger?
Yes.
Dr. Waldman?
Yes.
And Mayor Walker?
Yes. Oh, there we go. There we go. Okay. Okay, thank you. Mr. Bush, will you talk in your mic for me, please?
Testing.
There you go. Thank you. All right. New business, item A, first reading of ordinances 2312. This is going to designate funding from the coronavirus relief. There was allocated an amount of $1,496,243 into specific projects. What that means is we're going to allocate this money that we received from the 2.5 million we received from the Office of Coronavirus second tranche. I'll make a motion for first reading. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. This is as you know, during Corona, we got an allocation of $5 million from the federal government to help us recover from Corona, the devastating aspects of the Corona pandemic. In that first $202,005,000 we've spent that money or allocated that money to a lot of projects, and we're going to be talking about that in a minute. The second tranche, the $2,500,000, which is what we're talking about today, we've already decided to spend that on specific projects in there. On the resolution, though, on item 5, it has an allocation of $700,000 going to the Rawls Creek Park. I think that should have been the Irmo Community Park, as far as for projects with the, is that right? Or is that supposed to be for Rawls Creek?
That's for Rawls Creek, isn't it? For the bathrooms,
Yeah. Is that right, Courtney? I just want to make sure I'm reading it right, that's all.
You're correct. This 700,000 is towards the Rawls Creek project.
Okay, so that's where we have the community garden, the bathroom, lighting and signage, and the dog park. Right? Okay. Again, we're spending $1,496,243 on that. We'll have a $1,031,905.72 left over. And we're going to address that in the next ordinance down here. Comments, Mr. Sickinger?
So I think the important thing for the public to understand in terms of what they're looking at here, these are projects that either are already in progress or in some cases completed, and in some cases just on the roadmap, but they're like definitive projects that we know we need to do. Some of them might raise an eyebrow, but I think the important thing to note is for many years, unfortunately, the town operated, in my opinion, from a position of being penny wise and pound foolish, where we would cut corners and not make upgrades and not invest in infrastructure and not invest in things like software and things like computers. And it put us in a position where when we finally do have the capital, that's where it's going to go. So I'm in favor.
Okay. Mr. Danielson?
Yeah, this ARPA funding has been discussed on numerous occasions. I've lost track of the amount of times we've discussed this. Some of these monies are spent. I'm not going to reiterate what Councilman Sickinger said. He's spot on, except we still, Dr. Sickinger, I'm sorry. We still need to be conservative thinking in our spending, but these are funds that do invest in our infrastructure. I'll just give you a quick example, and then I'm going to yield. We have some $300,000 in public works equipment. We've got these beautiful parks in this town, and we've got to keep them up, and we've got to maintain them, and that costs money. So this is a perfect use. That's just an example. I could use them all as an example, but this is what we've spent to date and what we've earmarked specifically for projects. Thank you.
Dr. Wallman?
I agree. We've discussed these projects and the amounts that we think we need to spend on them, so I'm in support of this.
Mr. Bush?
Yeah, we've painstakingly gone through this. We've been very conservative, and I think there's still money left over.
Yeah, $1,031,905.72.
And also to point out, like the public works upgrades, there's a return on that investment, and that we're going to save some money in some areas that we've consistently spent money.
Okay. Any other comments? Will the clerk read the roll, please?
Mr. Bush? Mr. Danielson?
Yes.
Mr. Sickinger?
Yes.
Dr. Waldman?
Yes.
And Mayor Walker?
Yes. Okay, moving on, first reading of ordinance 2313. This is to redirect funds from the first tranche. Remember, we got $2.5 million, $2,528,148.72 from the federal government in the first tranche, which we got in 2021, October 2021, and we got another tranche we just got. I wanted to point out that we're going to redirect monies that we did not spend completely from the first tranche into the second tranche in right. And this also will basically defund the downtown project, the district project, the Mosley Street project, by taking that $717,239 and moving it into the general fund, and read is $36,875 of unspent grant money into the general fund. So that will balance the books on that first tranche, as well as the money we haven't spent yet. Is there a motion for first reading?
I'll make a motion.
Mr. Danielson? is
I'll
there-
second.
Mr. Danielson and Mr. Bush. Mr. Danielson?
Yeah, I want to be perfectly clear with the citizens of what we have going on here. This ordinance will basically end any reporting requirements to meet federal obligations for the spending of ARPA money. This basically says that the money we have left over that we didn't spend in the first tranche with the secondary tranche will now be spent. That's the key, reported and spent into our general fund. So that would be the end of the reporting. We have met the government requirements for ARPA funding. So at that point, those funds will be in our general fund, and we can use them as we see fit, as projects may or may not come along down the road that the council decides they want to do. But I think that's critically important, is that this is putting the money that we are required to spend under the standard allowance of the ARPA requirements, and we're putting it into our general fund, which ends that part of the reporting. So I just want the folks to know that. I don't know why that's hopping like that, but I just wanted to make sure that everybody was clear on what we're doing here. Thank you.
Mr. Bush?
I think this demonstrates a fiscal responsibility in that we're not just trying to spend money to spend money. So it puts it away so that we can continue to debate what it should be spent on. Yeah, my time.
Dr. Wallman?
I agree with Councilman Danielson and Bush, and I yield my time.
Okay, Mr. Sickinger?
Same. Nothing more to add.
Yeah, we are very fiscal conservative people here up on this council. As we've demonstrated over the years, we have run this town and no debt. And with that being the situation we put forward, I'm proud that we're going to take monies that were given to us, coronavirus relief, and basically put it in the general fund. I'm just worried, I guess I need to caution the council that that money was sent to us from the federal government to help the town recover from the corona pandemic. And being as such, humble opinion, take that money and buy frivolous stuff with it. We still need to do things that will have a long-term impact in the community over many years. Not buying a car that will be obsolete in several years, a couple of years. Buy things that are going to have a long-term impact to the community that they can get long-term return on. That being said, I'm in favor of moving all this money over and clearing that books and making it obligated so that we have fulfilled our obligations to the government from the coronavirus checks we got. Is there any other comments? Clerk, read the roll, please.
Mr. Bush?
Yay.
Mr. Danielson?
Yes.
Mr. Sickinger?
Yes.
Dr. Waldman?
Yes.
And Mayor Walker?
Yes. Item C, first reading of ordinance 2314 to amend multiple sections of Muni Code. Is there a motion for first reading?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Sickinger?
Yeah, this is a broad cleanup to remove a bunch of references as we move towards a master fee schedule. And I'm in favor of that, simplifying things for contractors and business owners and people that want to do things in town. They don't have to do a Control F and look through a Muni Code for 45 minutes. They can just look at the master fee schedule, clean, know what they need to pay.
Mr. Bush?
Yeah, I'm also in favor of simplifying this thing.
Holman?
I agree, it does simplify things, and putting all these fees into the master fee schedule is going to be beneficial. I would actually like to make a motion for a clarification, and that would be to add the statement, "and specified in the master fee schedule," every time that the phrase "a fee to be set by council" appears in these different sections of the code. Because as you're reading the different sections, you may not know that it's in something called the master fee schedule. And this would direct the public to look for the master's fee schedule.
Say that again now. I want to, where's that referred to?
Within the various changes that are proposed in this ordinance,
For the master fee schedule.
there's often, the phrase is "a fee set by council," but it doesn't direct the public where to look for that fee. So by adding the phrase "and specified in the master fee schedule," that would, in every case, because these appear in different sections of the code, so even if it appears in the first part, it might not be noticeable, I just want to make it easy for the public when they're looking at these things to know where that fee is going to be listed. I think without that, it's not clear where to go look for that fee. Whereas previously, the fee was right there in that part of the code. Does that make sense?
I'll second the motion.
Okay, the motion's been made and second. Is there any discussion on that?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I would like, I think this horse has left the barn. We basically just approved the second reading, a budget that referred to the master fee schedule, and I know it's in generally the master fee schedule. So this is just an ordinance to clean up that language so that, and I wholeheartedly support the motion to amend that so that the folks can find it and they know there's a master fee schedule. So I'm in support.
I have a question for staff. Was the plan also to link from Municode, like if I'm looking at it in Municode, is there a plan to link it, that processing fee is set by town council to the master fee schedule?
Where is the? Here. All right. Mr. Bush?
Yeah, I mirror their comments. I yield my time.
Okay, and I'll go along with it. Any other comment? Amendment. Seeing none, the clerk read the roll for the amendment, please.
Mr. Bush?
Yes.
Mr. Danielson?
Yes.
Mr. Sickinger?
Yes.
Dr. Waldman?
Yes.
And Mayor Walker?
Yes. Okay, back to the original motion as amended. Is there any other discussion? Any other discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk read the roll?
Mr. Bush?
Yes.
Mr. Danielson?
Yes.
Mr. Sickinger?
Yes.
Dr. Waldman?
Yes.
And Mayor Walker?
Yes. Okay. First reading of ordinance 2315 to amend the land and development section 2.2 in tables. This will require planned developments of car washes facility to obtain a special exception from the ZBA.
So move.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Great. Mr. Sickinger, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I generally feel like we should just kind of say, free market and you own the land, do what you want with it within the rules of zoning, but that's where this comes in. The people of Irmo have been really clear over the last year or so about their feelings of the number and volume of car washes. I have nothing against them. I think the only concern that I have, I don't mind a business owner having to do one extra small step, not a big deal. The only concern I have, and I think that's really important, and the onus is on us, to make sure that, and staff, to make sure that the exceptions are clear and that we don't, we're not doing just ad hoc rulings, but just being fair and consistent in applying those special exceptions from the ZBA.
Mr. Bush.
I mirror Councilman Sickinger's comments. And yield my time.
Dr. Waldman.
I agree.
Mr. Danielson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm a free market guy, as most people know. But I do think we have heard from the constituents. I wish we were in control of some of the other areas that the folks think are in Irmo, where there are car washes, which really are not in Irmo. My wife claims there aren't enough because my car is always dirty, so apparently I don't get to the car wash often enough. But I think we got to be very careful to, this is a way to make things a little bit more stringent for these folks to use the plantings and horticulture and all of those things to soften that look and that curb appeal, which there is none with a car wash. So I am generally supportive of this based on what our constituency wants, but I am concerned that we don't cross the line. And again, I'm going to put that on our ZBA and our planning folks, and I'm looking at you, Mr. Polley. Thank you.
The clerk read the roll.
Mr. Bush?
Yes.
Mr. Danielson?
Yes.
Mr. Sickinger?
Yes.
Dr. Waldman?
Yes.
And Mayor Walker?
Yes. First reading of ordinance is 2316. This is to allow mini warehouses, self-storage units, move that to light manufacturing only district and remove as a special exception and remove them from office commercial and general commercial. Is there a motion for first reading?
So moved.
I'll second it. Mrs. Sickinger.
Yeah, I think both of these ordinances, the previous and this one, really, we're talking about the future of the town. And what, people talk about how Irma looks different than it did 20 years ago, and that's obviously a fact. But there's very little things that we can do on council in terms of really ensuring that we protect, not becoming like some particular areas, I guess, in South Carolina, where you just drive down and just, storage warehouses, gas stations, loan places, pawn shops, car wash, and then repeat and repeat and repeat, and maybe some fast food in there. So if we can put a little bit of a light hand on this and just say, let's, slow it down and move it into the right spot, totally in favor.
I agree with you. We want to try. However, we don't want to stifle business. That's it. Remember, I've been bragging all night about the fact that Irmo has no millage rate, 0 taxes. The only way we live off of is business license and fees. So I don't want to encourage a person that wants to come in, open up a car wash or a storage facility in the community. We already talked about car washes. That's a different subject. But storage facilities are exactly what they are. They're places where people come in to store stuff and put it away, get it out their house, declutter their house. They put them in these storage units. You generate some. I don't see a problem if we have them in general commercial and general office, because we can put the restrictions on them, make them SC designations with restrictions on them. They can't be on the main drag. In other words, if, I'm giving an example, we have an Aldi's being built up here on Broad River Road. Behind the Aldi's, you can have a storage unit. It's not ag, but it's in general commercial. That's the kind of exception they can make at the ZBA level and say, well, you want to have a storage unit? You're not going to put it on Broad River Road, but you're going to put it behind the Aldi's in general commercial. That's something I think that the council can live with. I think that y'all are saying you don't want to see them riding down the street. I think you want to see them, they might be there, but not on the main drag. And the same thing as CO. So what I'd like to do is make an amendment to this ordinance to say that put the CO back in CO and CG, special exception designation, which means that it goes to ZBA. They can still do the storage unit, but the ZBA will have to make the choice of putting it behind, if they're going to put it behind, off the main path, behind another business that has the land that's available. I don't see what's wrong with that. So that's my motion. Is there a second? Is there a second to my motion? Hearing none, the motion to amend the storage unit SE designation fails. Dr. Waldman.
I think it's appropriate to move this into, as a special exception, and move it into light manufacturing. The Planning Commission discussed this, and they discussed it in terms of the buffering that's required for light manufacturing. And it seems very appropriate and to have it, as a special exception going to the ZBA. And it is the Planning Commission's recommendation.
Okay, Mr. Bush?
I think it's just important to mention, we're not preventing them. We're just simply putting them in a more appropriate location. And a landowner can always come in and try to rezone something to light manufacturing. But, I mean, it's akin to a warehouse. So, I mean, light manufacturing seems like an appropriate place. I yield my time.
Else, Mr. Bush? Mr. Dennison?
Yes, sir. A lot to unpack here. Again, how restrictive do we want to be? I'm in support of moving this to a light manufacturing zoning. And given the buffering and the things that are required there, I'm a little nervous about the general commercial because of visibility. Even though we could be behind some things, you can still see them. And I could point out some examples that we could walk to right here, where they may be behind the primary business, but then you see them very clearly. So I think it's a good move. We're not stopping them from coming into the town of Irmo. But more than anything else, we'll talk about this a little later tonight, but this is why we have item N on our agenda for tonight. I mean, this shows you where we are in the comprehensive plan and the adjustments we need to make. This town is growing at lightning speed. And I know a lot of folks don't know that or don't think that, but most do just when they look out on the street. But we have to make sure we stay ahead of that game to a certain extent. So I'm in favor of this, and I think we can discuss it further under item N.
Okay. Again, I'd like to point out that you are restricting storage units to be in one area, LN, light manufacturing, LM, and unfortunately, we don't have that much light manufacturing areas in the town of Irmo. So you're asking them to be in one specific area. There's not a lot of zoned areas. And I don't want to stop enhanced buffering that will say you have to have so many feet. I'm not saying change any of that. I'm just saying that allow them to be in those areas, commercial, general, and CO, that's behind. I mean, again, the ZBA would have to make that call behind these existing businesses, like behind all these. You know, I don't see that being an issue as far as visibility is concerned, which is what you raised, and I see it being a plus in generating revenue. Okay. Make that.
Yeah, just one last thing to add, just for unfairness' sake. Some have said similar arguments around higher density in apartments and condos, and said that, you know, since most of that is relegated to RG, there's not a lot of RG in Irmo. So it's a pretty similar argument, but you've been okay with that. So I just feel like we're not hungry for 100 new storage places. I think the market will dictate. If we need more, then they'll come to us for a rezoning.
Okay. Look,
One more comment,
okay.
yeah. We're not restricting them, and we want that business income to come in, but it needs to be smart. It needs to be, we need to be thoughtful. That's why we have a zoning appeals board, right? They can come in and ask for reasonable rezoning of a particular piece of property. But I am all for business income. That's how we survive. And I have voted, I believe I'm the only one who voted in support of office warehouse, mini warehouses. So I am supportive of that. I just think we need to be careful.
Okay. Any more comments? Dr. Wallman?
Yes, I think this is a good compromise. Again, we're not preventing these businesses from coming into the town, but we're being cautious and forward-thinking in terms of how we're allowing the town to develop. And I think that's, again, I think this is a good balance or a compromise.
I mean, I just want to mention this plays into, and I mean, we definitely need a comprehensive plan update and, you know, for zoning and where things should be based on a map that's forward-looking. And this is just a little piece of it.
Okay. First reading, so, okay. Any other comments? Seeing none, clerk read the roll, please.
Mr. Bush?
Yay.
Mr. Danielson?
Yes.
Mr. Sickinger?
Yes.
Dr. Waldman?
Yes.
And Mayor Walker?
No. First reading ordinance 2317 to amend the Irmo County Code. Dr. Wallman, you put this on there to allow council members to participate electronically. Just want to point out to the council that this will require a 2/3 majority vote to pass first reading. Is there a motion?
I'll move to approve.
Dr. Wallman, and is there a second?
I'll second.
Mrs. Sickinger, go ahead. Dr. Wallman?
Yes, this ordinance is to allow, under unusual, exceptional circumstances, the ability of a council member to attend and participate in council meetings electronically. There are some other additional parts to this ordinance that are just cleaning up some language, and one part which is just adding approval of the agenda to the order of business, which is why it's going to require a 2/3 majority. But the reasoning behind this is that we can't always control the circumstances that happen to us. And I would rather be able to participate electronically where the entire audience, the entire council can hear me, can see me if so desired, but that I can still represent the citizens of Irmo to the best of my ability, regardless of, an emergency circumstance or something that prevents me from participating in person. I think we're in an age where we have that kind of technology available, and it just seems that that would be more useful than saying that you cannot represent at a council meeting because we aren't allowing electronic communication.
Is that it? Mrs. Sickinger?
Yeah, so one of the things that I think, just to speak to some things that I've heard and even from other council members during workshop as we've discussed this. So I've worked remotely for the last 9 years. 20 years ago, that would not have been a possibility. Technology has introduced the opportunity for additional venues for communication, and that includes being remote on occasion. One of the things that's really important to note about this is that no one who is in favor of this, although I only speak for myself, is asking for the ability for council to constantly and consistently be not present at a council meeting. What they are saying is when a family member is in serious health issues, or when a plane gets delayed, or when they are in a car accident but they want to vote from the hospital bed, when requires them, regardless of their arguments against it, that your choice is show up or be fired. Very legitimate reasons that in those very rare circumstances, for a council member to be able to say, instead of, hey, I just had a family member pass, but because we have to be there in person, because for some reason we feel like that's an onus creates a different opinion, that I can't hear what people are saying when they speak from the microphone from the podium, or that my vote counts any less. That's not true. So let's just be fair about what we're really asking for, which is on exception, and it should absolutely be an exception, and not every meeting. In fact, I would say the rule should be never, but allow folks to serve remotely on occasion.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, but Mr. Sickinger, you pointed out several places in this electronic meeting world that really doesn't make sense to me at all, because when we got elected to council, we were elected to serve the citizens of Irmo. At the beginning of the year, in January, we're given a calendar of 12 meetings a year, the date and time of those 12 meetings at the beginning of the year. And we know in advance that those 12 meetings will be these days, okay? And there's no reason why, if you have a job delay or whatever, if you're delayed on a plane, if you have a job assignment, that you can't just make a phone call to Courtney or myself and say, hey, I'm not going to be at this particular meeting because or my job is requiring me to do some work. It is absolutely no reason why you can't make that phone call and let us know. We as a council will give you the respect to say that we will not, if we have an item like a budget item that's a major expenditure, we will not vote item during that meeting. We can certainly postpone it to the next meeting. That's the correct thing to do. But to allow you to sit at an iPad in your ICU bed because you got in a wreck, or sit at an iPad because you're in LAX airport and sign on to a council meeting and pay attention to what's going on and be in front of the citizens who pay our salary, is this not what they paid for? It's not what they hired us for. It's not what you got elected for. You got elected to be in the council chambers to represent the town of Irmo live and in front of everybody. Now, also, I want to point out that the South Carolina legislature requires all the members to be live and present in the chamber. They don't allow them to be on Zoom or any kind of electronic means to vote. In the U.S. Congress, it's the same requirement. And these people are coming from all over the country. I know for a fact, Joe Wilson, when we were up in Washington, Joe Wilson had to get out of his office to get back to the House chambers to vote on certain items that he was needed to be at. Those are things that make sense. And those are things that make sense, that you have to be in front of the citizens live in the audience. If you got sick, I guarantee you, you're not going to be, whatever sickness you have, if you had a heart attack, the Irmo Council should be not the first thing on your mind. Getting revived and getting out of ICU should be the first thing on your mind. If a family member has died and that's an immediate, at the funeral, zooming in on a meeting and then trying to figure out, well, my mom just passed away or some immediate family member just passed away, and I'm gonna be in the corner zooming in on a meeting because the meeting is going on. Those are things that are not a priority for us to do. You mentioned two examples. Both examples were work-related. And again, if your job cannot allow you to serve on the council, you need to make a decision if you want to serve on the council. Because I made that commitment, everybody up here has made that commitment to serve on the Irmo Town Council. And we all made that commitment to serve the people of this town with our presence and our complete attention to anything that's going on in the room and give them the opportunity to talk. This also will, if we do pass this, it's going to require a substantial electronic modification to our software system, to our Zoom or our council meeting. You know, you remember you have to be present in the room and you have to be heard and you have to hear what's going on in the room. And those things are not right now. If you look at our videos, we can have areas or town parts of our meeting where you can't hear somebody. We have to make sure that that's not the case. And more importantly, if we call an executive session, how in the world are you going to be able to go into the executive session through a Zoom meeting? You can't. We have ordinances in place that says you cannot go into our executive session and bring electronic equipment in there. So there's no way you'll be able to attend an executive session meeting at the council, of the council, if we're required to have one. No, if you need to miss a meeting, go ahead and miss a meeting. We respect you enough that you won't abuse it, but we respect you enough that we won't vote on anything that's that important that you need to be. I think the council, this present council, will back us up on that.
Arguments on both sides, well put. I will say that I'm an open book when it comes to a lot of things, and this being one of them. I am not a Zoom fan. I am not a meeting Teams fan. I got one tomorrow, and I have to lead it, and I have total disdain for it, frankly. I will lead it from where the meeting is taking place. because that's just who I am. But I'm a little taken aback by what seems to be a little bit of an attack on Councilman Sickinger personally here, because he is so passionate about this. And frankly, this is one of those things that I'm struggling with, because this is something that I believe you need to be here, but I also understand that there's no limitation in this ordinance as it's structured. Is it 1? Is it 2? And again, we've talked about this at length in a workshop, but I somehow knew it would come to speechifying and all the other things that go with it. But I see both points of view here. So I think we need to be careful which way we go. My recommendation would be to table this until we figure out internally how we want to do this, because this is not the place to have this kind of a disagreement, I don't believe. And frankly, I'd like a little more time to try to think about this and talk about this amongst ourselves to determine how we structure this. Because if we do allow it, there need to be strict adherence to that. And as far as the technology, I agree 100%, Mr. Mayor. Our technology needs to be upgraded to do that anyway, whether we approve that or not. There are people, I get complaints all the time, people can't hear this from home. You know, YouTube is out, this is out, that is out. We can't hear the gentleman right here, the esteemed Councilman Harvey Hoots, couldn't hear Kelly's sitting right here. So I understand everything you just said about when you got up and spoke to us about having to be here. That's me. That's old school. That's the dinosaur that I am. So I would recommend we table this so we can come to some. So that would be my motion. I would make a motion we table this discussion till further notice.
Well, we have one other council member that hasn't spoken on it. Would you like to, can we wait until he speaks? Is that all right? Mr. Bush?
You going to humor me, Dr. Danielson? Yeah, so I mean, this is controversial, and, you know, thinking it through, like, so, I mean, I wouldn't challenge anybody on this council if they weren't dedicated, this particular council. And I'll tell you what, my father passed away on a Tuesday, and I showed up here that night. That was a rough business. So, you know, that aside, we also have another 12 meetings that are workshops, which I don't see any reason why you couldn't attend remotely.
Zoom meeting, like a Zoom meeting?
Like we're talking about here electronically. We don't take votes in workshops, but that's a second set of 12 obligations. And, you know, so that gives an opportunity for some flexibility. The other thing I would argue is that it's nice having council members that have day jobs to represent people out in the community that have day jobs. And so that can sometimes cause a conflict. I know my company required me to be in Virginia for a week, but it had to be scheduled around this council meeting. So, you know, there are obligations, there are benefits to having that ability, and I don't think anybody here, and that is something we need to discuss, is do you get like one get out of jail free card and then that's it for the year, or, you know, kind of a limitation on it. So, you know, either way, I'm in favor of a table or to vote tonight.
Okay, well, if that's your comments, Mr. Danielson has made a motion to table this until when?
I would say till the next meeting, and we discuss it in our workshop and come up. Well, then we should call a workshop. This is where we do the heavy lifting, right? This is where the council does the heavy lifting. So I would recommend we call a workshop just to hash this subject out.
Can we do that remotely?
Can you do it remotely? You could do a meeting, that's not a problem. All right, Mr.
I'll second the motion.
All right, Mr. Danielson made a motion to table this.
Let me just clarify, this needs to be deferred. Table's got to be taken up tonight.
I'll let him table it. He was gonna table it.
Yeah, but you
He
got to.
said table, I'm the one what he said. You mean,
If you table it, you have to take it back up tonight.
good, so he
Defer-
said table it.
Defer
Then let me
specifies a
amend my,
time.
There you go, okay.
I'll resecond.
You second that, you second the second motion. Second, is there any discussion on the motion to table this? Okay.
Point of
He
order?
He repealed his first motion and okay, hold up, Mr. Bush, listen to me. Mr. Anderson made a motion to defer, and then he repealed that motion to make it, no, I mean, you made a
Table,
motion to
defer.
table, and you repealed it, and he repealed that motion to table it, and Mr. Signature repealed his second to table it. Is that what I understood you to say?
Sure.
And so he motion to the table has been withdrawn. Mr. Danielson made a motion to defer it. Signature then seconded that motion to defer. Is that correct? Okay, so now we are at the point of discussion of the motion to defer. Would you like to discuss it, Mr. Bush, since you have some,
Point of clarification. Would the clerk mind reading the current motion that's on the floor? That way we can know what we're voting on for clarity.
this is a motion to defer.
Not very clear right now.
Well, let me give it to you very clearly. There's a motion to defer this item, item F, Ordinance 2317, to the next council meeting, which is when? Well, the next council meeting to vote on it, okay? Which is when, Courtney? July 18th? To defer this until July 18th. Okay. It's been properly moved and second, and we're having discussion on that motion to defer. Got it? Madam Clerk?
Yes, I do.
Okay, great. Now, Mr. Or any discussion on the deferment?
I wanted some clarification from the attorney on Robert's
Ask me,
rules.
you can ask me the clarification. What clarification do you want, Mr. Bush? I think I made it clear as mud, but I mean,
What, so I don't know, I mean, is it, you can repeal an original motion?
I think the chair has ruled that you can repeal his motion because he made it. That means that motion has been withdrawn. He then made, it's got a first and a second on it. I mean, a motion and a second on it. Now, are you willing to discuss that motion and the second or not?
No.
Okay, great. Dr. Wallman, would you like to discuss the motion?
No.
Okay, well, y'all two made it, but, okay, that's fine. Again, discussing this motion in a workshop and then coming back on the 23rd, July 18th, it's fine. We can have more discussion about it. But, again, you've heard my position. There's no precursor ordinance, there's no somebody will be in the emergency room in the ER, zooming in on a meeting. There's no reason why anybody will be at a work obligation when you know about this meeting 12 months in advance. There's no reason why anybody cannot just simply call the council and get the respect of the rest of the council members not to take up any action that will be cause a expenditure or delay. We can certainly, just like we're gonna, defer this to the next council meeting, we can defer any action. More comments on a deferral, on an amendment to defer. Seeing none, will the clerk call a roll, please?
Mr. Bush?
No.
Mr. Danielson? Mr. Sickinger?
Yes.
Dr. Waldman?
No.
And Mayor Walker?
No. Okay, the motion has failed to defer it, so now we're back to debating the motion as it stands right now. Is there a motion, any more discussion? We all had one chance to go around. Is there any other discussion on the motion?
Yes.
Yes, Mr. Signature?
Give me a minute, Mr. Mayor. I was on to the next item on the agenda in my notes.
We're still on 23.
Yes, I know.
Oh, okay.
I was moving forward in expectation of a positive vote there. So a couple of items. First of all, whether this council passes it or not, the next one will, and if they don't, the following one will. This is not a question of if, but a question of when. This is a very common thing throughout the United States. Councils and commissions throughout the U.S. are offering this because they understand that it offers accessibility and an understanding. I'll note that when it comes to cost, it is minimal, barely worth mentioning. I could probably spin that up in like 30 minutes. It's really not a big deal, so that's not a genuine objection worthwhile. I will agree that there's always things that need to be done with our sound system and our streaming, but that is unrelated to accommodating a remote council member. As Councilmember Bush alluded to, I don't think it is our job to gatekeep who can run for council. And if we say that, and I'm trying to be careful because I am truly not wishing to offend, but if we say, here's the 24 meetings for the year, and if your job doesn't understand, well, then maybe you should quit council. What? No, we should say, okay, let's figure out how to accommodate you. If it's important enough that every council member is here for every single meeting, and I agree with you that they should attend in person or remotely, then it shouldn't also be a shoulder shrug when someone says, I have to call out and miss this. If it's important, then it should be important enough to let them attend. If it's not important, then we should shoulder shrug and say, not a big deal. I understand you're at LAX, or you have a funeral to attend, or you are severely ill. Well, if it's important that we make the sacrifices, and I don't mean that in the large term, but in the smaller term in terms of time, to be here, then it makes sense to be able to say we should accommodate. I'm in favor of us passing this, and I understand, Councilmember Danielson, why you wanted to table and or defer it, because it would have allowed us to work through it. Thankfully, there's 2 readings, so maybe we can get that done in between. I'll wrap up with 2 additional notes. And one is, I don't think, we talked about the South Carolina legislature and the House of Reps. I don't think we want to hold them up as the gold standard of technological advancement. We had a senator who famously called the internet a series of tubes. These folks are, they're not asking for a series of tubes, yes, an Alaskan senator. We get elected not only to attend council meetings, but also to serve the people. And I don't believe that attending remotely once a year when a situation warrants it reduces the service that we do 52 weeks a year. What that does mean is it allows that representative, that council member, to serve despite the circumstances that they are in that moment.
Okay. Where did I leave off? You said something. You mentioned, again, in your example here, on several points, you mentioned on several points that if somebody is in a medical emergency, then they should be able to Zoom in and meet electronically. I know people out here who've had heart attacks. I can tell you that attending a council meeting should not be the biggest thing on your mind. We have enough respect for each other up here. Postpone a vote on anything that was controversial. A lot of stuff we voted on tonight, amending the Mooney Code, changing the zoning and land stuff. for car washes and storage units. That's not life-changing readings, and it's a second reading. Now, again, I'm not saying that you can't access the meetings remotely, because you can certainly sign on to YouTube, which I'm doing right now. I'm looking at the video from the meeting right now. And you can participate, or you can be a part of what's happening if you know what's happening. But when it comes to voting, when it comes to executive sessions, when it comes to hearing what the citizens have to say out here, there is no way with this current technology we have that you can do that. Not reliable. And what happens if your signal drops and you're in the airport, or you can't get a signal halfway in a meeting? Am I going to allow you to rejoin the meeting? You know, that's a question. You left the meeting. Does that mean our ordinance says if you get up and leave, you can basically have to stay out the meeting until the end. You have to get back in. So when your signal drops and you drop off electronically, how do you get back in without disturbing the meeting?
Point of order. I thought we deferred.
Point of order, or you want to, what? Excuse me. You know, those are the type of things that you talk about. If your car gets broken down, I mean, you already mentioned that, though. But our responsibility is to be live in this room. I think that a lot of citizens will expect us to do so. Now, you also mentioned that you don't think it should be a precursor to running for council. It's not. I'm not saying that if you can't make it to a meeting, you can't call in, you can't say that you're not going to be here. All we're saying is that you can call in electronically and see the meeting, but no vote electronically on that meeting. You could put up a screensaver and say, hey, I'm voting, and how do we know that that's you on the other end of that screensaver? There's lots of issues that we haven't addressed in here. And you also mentioned to put a limit on it. I don't see anything that says a limit on it in the current. You don't have any of that language in here right now. So, well, go ahead. That's all I have. Dr. Baldwin?
This is only the first reading. We can make changes before the second reading if we need to impose limits, to give other specification. I don't agree with your statement, Mayor Walker, that when a person runs for council, that they're committing to the 12 meetings a year, because at the point when a candidate is running, those meeting dates haven't even been set. So they would have no way to know if it's going to be a conflict with their livelihood, with their business. And it is very possible that an employer could require you to be present at some distant location for a week of training or something that can't be changed. And so what you're saying is that it's okay to just not participate and not represent at a council meeting, rather than to do so electronically and appropriately. It would be as indicated in the proposed section 266 under voting requirements, subsections B, C, and D. This is primarily what the Municipal Association of South Carolina has recommended for electronic participation in meetings. So this isn't something that is, just being made up, but it's trying to make it clear that if you are participating electronically, you can be heard by the council and the public, that your vote can be recorded by the clerk, that it's recorded in the minutes that you're attending electronically, and that there needs to always be a quorum of council members physically present during a meeting. In other words, there could not be most of the council attending electronically during a meeting.
Mr. Mayor, if you don't mind.
And
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm trying to just remember all my thoughts here. This ordinance does not allow, as written, it does not allow electronic participation in executive session. And I mean, it's not intended to do that because we cannot do that electronically at this point in time. And I'll end there.
Okay, hold on. Mr. Bush?
Yield my time.
Okay. Mr. Sickinger?
I'm
I'm sorry, Mr.
sorry,
Danielson.
I didn't mean to.
No, I yield my time. I'm listening.
Okay, Mr. Sickinger?
I think this has been healthy, and I think it's an issue that, for whatever reason, happened to get our ire, but I think it has been a healthy debate, and I think it's a good time for us to just call the question and vote, if that's okay with you, Mr. Mayor.
That's fine. You can call the question to a vote. It's not debatable. Is there a second for the question to be called?
I'll second.
Okay, it's been properly moved in second. Is there any debate on the question to be called? Everybody had a chance to talk. We all have our feelings out, our points out. Yes, Dr. Waldman, you can't do executive sessions. And every example you have given us tonight is work-related. And you're absolutely right. If your job requires you to be out of town on this date that we have one of 12 meetings, it is up to you to say to council, I can't make it to that one meeting. And you have to rely on the fact that we are a working council together for us to postpone any votes on anything that's going to be detrimental to the fabric of this community, to postpone that to the next meeting because you can't make it there. So that's my point, and I hear you. You can do that. We don't need to have you remotely working from home if you're at a work training session. I mean, you're concentrating on a training session, or are you concentrating on the council meeting? If you're at a funeral, are you concentrating on?
Point of order, Mr. Mayor. The question has been called. That means
That's
there's a
my
vote.
discussion with the
No,
question.
that's
That's my
not.
discussion with the
No,
question.
there's a vote.
Mr. Sickinger, you're out of order, and that's my discussion that I'm ending with. Will the clerk call the roll?
Mr. Bush?
Yay.
Mr. Danielson? Mr. Sickinger?
Yes.
Dr. Waldman?
Yes.
Mayor Walker?
No. Okay. What was that vote on the? Okay, thank you. All right. Well, the question has been called, it's been properly moved in second, it's been properly voted on. We're back to the vote of the ordinance as stated right now. Will the clerk call the roll, please?
Mr. Bush?
Yay.
Mr. Danielson?
Yay.
Mr. Sickinger?
Yes.
Dr. Waldman?
Yes.
And Mayor Walker?
No. The motion passes, and everybody that voted for it wants to do it electronically, and I understand that, no problem. All right? It was first reading, we'll have a second reading on this in a couple of weeks. All right. Approval to repair the well at the Irmo Town Park. Motion for approval. I'll make a motion for approval. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right. It's been properly moved in second. Discussion. We have a quote for about 12 grand to repair a well pump and the lining and the fittings, and then we got it from AAA Well Drilling Company. There is another company that I have contacted, and I believe the price is substantially less, considering that this company, the AAA Well Drilling Company, is a company that originally installed this part in our water system. Did we not warranty on that? Anybody knows about that? How much? 20 years old? Okay. And that was the warranty period, outside the warranty period? Beg your pardon? 5 years? Okay. Got it. Okay. So I would like to make a motion that we send it back out to bid again. And I have the names of 2 other companies that can give you a bid, that would like to bid on it, that's substantially lower than this price. That's my motion. Is there a second?
Point of clarification, what's the actual motion?
To rebid this out again, because all I see is this one. Do you see other bids?
Sorry, just for clarification, that's not a motion.
Motion to,
Yeah.
Why is it
Like,
not a
that's not a Robert's Rules motion, like, are you amending it? What's the actual motion?
to the approval out. Up or down?
I mean,
Okay.
so that's why I'm asking, because like, if I move to amend, or I move to whatever, but,
I got you.
yeah.
Okay, so, all right, you want to, then I make okay, that's my motion to not to approve this contract, bid it out. And I have two other vendors who can submit bids. Who seconded that? You? Mr. Bush? Approval. Yeah. I mean, do you have any comments on it? No? Okay. Dr. Wallman, you have any comments?
I do have a question. The approval is in the amount of $13,740. The actual estimated cost on the quote is for $12,719.44. Can you, Mr. Dennis, could you explain the difference on those numbers?
Yeah, it doesn't have tax included.
Okay, thank you.
Eric?
Yeah, no, thank you. So just for clarification, again, was this bid out, or did we just seek out the contractor?
No, this is the vendor that, built the system, so
Okay.
we contacted them for a quote.
Great. And just point of information, what were the amounts from these other vendors?
Well, the amounts is, when he calls, he can get those amounts, but the bid was $12,719.
Oh, okay, I see. Thank you.
Yeah. Mr. Danielson?
I yield.
Okay. Any more discussion?
I would actually like to comment. So I've got personal experience. My well burned up on Monday, and I'm into it $1,500 for a residential well that's like 3/4 horse motor. This is not, I don't think this is a bad quote.
Okay. And it's not a bad quote, but again, I got others, but any more discussion? Seeing none, vote up or down is, will the clerk call a roll, please?
Mr. Bush,
Yes.
Mr. Danielson,
Yes.
Mr. Sickinger,
Yes.
Dr. Waldman,
Yes.
and Mayor Walker.
No. And we're gonna spend $13,740 for a well to be fixed. Item H, approval to accept a grant. Shouldn't have any arguments about this, to get body armor for our police department through a grant. Again, an example of us going out soliciting grants for stuff that we need for our town, our police officers, and not just adding that into our budget as a request, budget item request. Is there a motion to accept approval?
I move.
Is there a
Second.
Okay, Dr. Wallman and Dr. Bush.
Congratulations.
Ms. Wallman. Any comments?
No, I totally agree with accepting this grant.
Mr. Bush.
I can only say thank you to the grant writer, and I yield my time.
All right, Dr.
I agree with my council members.
Mr. Danielson.
I'm in agreement, and I want to thank the chief and our town administrator and staff for making this stuff happen. This is where the guts of the town happens, right here, in our staff with their recommendations. So thank you very much.
Okay, will clerk read the roll, please?
Mr. Mr. Bush,
Dr. Bush, and that's a yay for me.
Mr. Danielson,
You sure?
I'm sure,
Yes.
Mr. Sickinger,
Yes.
Dr. Waldman,
Yes.
and Mayor Walker.
Yes. Items I, J, and K. I'd like to call Mr. Mike Ward up to give us answer any questions we might have. This is approval on those items. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
And I will second it. Okay, rather, Dr. Wallman. We're seconding all three of those, okay? To help us get out of here. We made a motion on all three. You got that? Okay, go ahead. Mr. Signature.
That's up or down on three items. If one of them fails, they're all going to fail, just to point that out, Mr. Ward. But I have a lot of faith in the Oakland Commission and its current chair. So I certainly would like to hear what it's for. Like, I mean, it reads basically pretty clear. Is there anything that you think that we should know that's outside of what it reads as pretty straightforwardly?
Most of it is pretty straightforward, I agree. The Something Borrowed is the company that we actually sent out bids, asking for bids on the, what we call rental equipment. That's going to be your tents, all of the infrastructure that's not already at the park that we need to borrow for a weekend. That's what that is. And Something Borrowed LLC came back with the most respectable price for us. We received at least 3 bids. We talked to 4 or 5 companies. I believe 3 actually responded with full bids that met the requirements of what we asked. And then after much discussion and review, we ended up with Something Borrowed. Custom Audio and Lighting is the production company that is behind the scenes. They are the reason that you see the bands and hear the bands. And so they are the same company that we actually used last year, and their amount for this year is quite similar, if not just a little less than what they charged last year. So to our delight and surprise, we went ahead and accepted that. We enjoyed working with that company. Where you're going to see a bit of a change this year is the company we've worked with in the past for the amusement rides was not available for our festival this year. And so the commissioner that is responsible for that portion worked really hard to attempt to find an alternative. Quite a number of alternatives were found, but only a couple called her back. And after a lot of discussion, we ended up with Will and Chris Amusements. And you're going to see a hefty price tag of $15,700. Okay. In years past, there has never been an upfront cost because the amusement company came in and did a revenue split with us. So whatever they sold in tickets, we printed and controlled the tickets, so we knew how many tickets they sold, and then we received a percentage of that. The change this year is we will be renting all of the amusement stuff. I'll use a very technical term there. We're renting the equipment, we're renting the safety part, we're renting their team to actually provide the staffing to run the equipment safely because they have the training, we do not. And what we'll be responsible for is actually selling the ride tickets, managing the lines and making sure that we are appropriately putting people in the right space in the park. And we are going to oversee that sales process. So instead of being able to work a deal with the company just to do the revenue split, this company wants us to basically rent them and their equipment, and then we handle the sales component.
And I think the only question follow-up that is, what was and forgive me for not knowing off the top of my head, what was the split last year as a revenue?
It's, off the top of my head, it's roughly 10%.
Oh, sorry,
And so
as a dollar amount?
The dollar amount was about $3,300.
Okay.
They saw roughly $33,000 in total sales from the amusements. And so some of the discussion at the commission was if we were to see $30,000 in sales and we're spending half of that on the rental, it could be a significant improvement from the amusement rides. And also, I want to stress, because of the change and because the Okra Strut will be responsible for selling those tickets. I've actually been working closely with the town administrator to develop cash handling policies, cash management policies. We're not keeping $30,000 in a bag in the information station. We're developing that. It's going to be written, put on paper, and discussed so that it's safe for the commissioners that have to deal with this, safe for the volunteers that are going to be helping manage this component, and then safe for the town and the money that we're actually responsible for.
Any other comments, discussion?
Yeah, I've got a couple questions, if you don't mind, Mr. Mayor. Maybe we shouldn't have had this conversation about cash if we wanted to try to keep people safe. So the next question is, are we going to have the chief squat on this bag and sit on that bag so that we know nobody's going to?
So I will speak to that. I actually asked if we could have that, and they declined. That was
Okay,
one thing they couldn't do.
Figured that. But the serious question is, this will increase amusements?
Mm-hmm.
Edification. You've researched these people, I mean, checked references, other places where they've said they're new for us, right?
They are new for us, yes.
Okay.
They do have positive reviews online, and the commissioner that was responsible for finding and bringing this has done due diligence to review those as well.
All we can ask. Thank you.
Absolutely.
I'm excited they have a Tijuana Twister ride.
Okay.
Mr. Ward, will this be cash sales only for tickets, or will you have some kind of electronic sales like a Square card reader or something like that that will be able to be used?
Dr. Waldman, I don't have any notes to answer that question. I actually had that thought. I have not had any discussions with the town administrator in regards to what our credit card processing capabilities are. The Okra Strut itself has no capability to process credit cards outside of what the town offers. For example, when we are responsible for collecting any kind of money for sponsorships, exhibitors, food vendors, all of that is processed through the town's website or by check. We definitely don't want to accept checks at the event, but I definitely think whether it's this year or a future year, credit cards may become something that we can integrate into it, but for the moment, it is cash only.
You can accept Square, through your phone.
I understand that, but until the Okra Strut has some mechanism to be able to accept that legally as the Okra Strut or the town of Irmo, we can't adopt that. I can't use my Square account to process money for the Okra Strut.
No, we can establish a Square account, can't we, Courtney?
Mr. Mayor, one of the major limitations there is there's no internet at the park, so.
You don't need an internet with a phone. They do it through, when we have the markets, people have cell phones out there, and they run a Square credit card through there.
And the second limitation is we don't have a Square account.
I know, can we get one, is what I'm saying.
I'm not sure, but we
it's
can,
not-
we can investigate that.
Not rocket science, is it? How much, can you get a Square account for the Okra?
I cannot for the Okra Strut, but I definitely will have a conversation with Mr. Dennis about
Okay,
setting something up.
all right. Got it. Any more questions? Seeing none, the clerk read a roll on items I, J, and K.
Mr. Bush?
Yay.
Mr. Danielson?
Yes.
Mr. Sickinger?
Yes.
Dr. Waldman?
Yes.
And Mayor Walker?
Yes.
Thank you.
Mike.
Thank
Appreciate it. Item L, approval of intergovernmental agreement. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? Mr. Sickinger?
It allows the town to participate in CDBG Home Improvement Partnership and Emergency Solutions Grant Programs facilitated by Lexington County.
Yes.
Course of doing business.
Okay, good. Mr. Danielson?
Yes, I thought that was eloquently read, and I agree.
Okay, anybody else have any comments? All right, clerk, read the roll, please.
Mr. Bush?
Yay.
Mr. Danielson?
Yes.
Mr. Sickinger?
Yes.
Dr. Waldman?
Yes.
And Mayor Walker?
Yes. Approval, item M, approval of memorandum of understanding to keep the Midlands beautiful. Is there a motion for the approval?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Sickinger.
It's a good thing, great organization. Look forward to working with them if this passes.
Mr. Danielson.
Yes, I agree. They are a great organization. Courtney, how many years have we had this agreement in play? Just curious.
We've only formalized it for the past few years.
Okay.
But we've been a partner with them for
Forever.
a very long time.
Okay. I'm in.
Okay, anybody else? Any other comments? Mr. Clerk, read the roll.
Mr. Bush?
Yay.
Mr. Danielson?
Yes.
Mr. Sickinger?
Yes.
Dr. Waldman?
Yes.
And Mayor Walker.
Yes. Item N, approval to solicit bid for the replace the town's comprehensive plan. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Danielson.
Yes, sir. I think this is, I mentioned it earlier tonight, I think this is part of where we're going to put some of this is an expensive and time-consuming project. The key here is that by bringing in outside consultants, which I believe we've got $120,000 earmarked for this, am I correct, Courtney? Okay.
It's not in the ARPA spending plan.
Okay.
We'll do it separately when we get the bids in.
All right, so, but we're still earmarking this money, about that amount of money for the comprehensive plan based on competition. I apologize that I misspoke about that, the ARPA, but that's coming out of the general fund. But the reality is every 10 years, we have to do a new update, comprehensive plan. We're at the 5-year mark. And technically, we've made a lot of amendments to the existing plan. Assistant Town Manager Pullen has worked on that and gotten a lot of that up to speed. But as I mentioned earlier, we are changing at lightning speed here. So while we have the funds available, this is a good time to go ahead and leapfrog to the next 10-year plan, which means we will put that in play. And it will have extensive public participation. That is one of the keys here, extensive public participation. So it takes time to make it happen. We'll bid it out. There are specialists who do that. I could probably guess it's going to be one of 3 in doing my research. Maybe some others will come to the table. But the major counties have done this, Lexington County, and we've had a lot of conversation whether we cobble something together. This is just not the time to do that. This is the time to do it. Put our 10-year plan in place now, and in 5 years, reevaluate, and we only have to make adjustments at that point. But maybe we've gone to the point where we would have to do it again. So that's where we're coming from here, and that's what the motion is.
Mr. Sickinger? I'm sorry, Mr. Bush?
Yeah, I mirror most everything that he said.
Dr. Waldman?
Yes, I think this is the right time to be doing the 10-year plan.
Sickinger?
The only thing to add to that is we've been trying to do this for 2 years to do an upgrade to the comprehensive plan. And I think if you look at that comprehensive plan as it stands today, it doesn't reflect IRMO as it is today. Whole swaths of that is just wrong, both as an opinion and as just a matter of fact in terms of the direction that the town stated it wanted to go when that comp plan was written. Just doesn't mirror our actions or our intent today, in my opinion. And I'll note, yes, Mr. Danielson, Councilman Danielson, it is expensive and time-consuming, but that's when it's done right. It is much cheaper, and speaking of being penny-wise, pound-foolish, it's much cheaper to cut a corner and to copy and paste. And I think the future of IRMO and our residents really deserve a comprehensive plan that reflects the people of IRMO and how they feel about things.
Okay. And I agree. The citizens need a plan to work from for 10 years. And I guess I'm speaking from experience. I was on that council 5 years ago or 6 years ago that made the 10-year comprehensive plan. We thought that was the direction at the time that we wanted to see the town go. Now, normally we do a 5-year annual checkup or review. At that point is when we make adjustments to the comprehensive plan, and that should be done. It hasn't been done, that should be done. I think that we need to we can do that in-house. We don't have to spend $120,000 to do it. We can make those adjustments. But the fact of the matter is that in 4 months or 6 months, we're gonna get a new council. And that council will then be charged with coming up with a comprehensive plan for the next 10 years. We don't need to spend $120,000 for the 5-year adjustment, which is where we are now in this process, and to come up with a 10-year plan, and then have a new council come in and say, well, I don't agree with that 10-year plan. You know, it should have been adjusted, and then have them readjust it, especially spending $120,000 to do it. We can save money, we can do it in-house, do the 5-year adjustment like it was supposed to be done, even though we haven't done it. And then if the next council in that next phase wants to do a 10-year comprehensive plan, then we have a full council in the next few months that can tackle that. So that being the case, are there any more comments? Mrs. Walter Wallman?
I don't agree that we should put this off just because there will be a council election in a few months. Every 2 years, there's a council election of part of the council composition. And I really do think that this is the time to do a plan for 10 years. We didn't do the 5-year plan when it should have been updated, which is how we got to this point of thinking about whether or not to do the 5-year plan or the 10-year plan. I'd like to ask Councilman Danielson, do you have any estimate of how long it will take to do the 10-year plan?
Well into the next elected council. I mean, it's going to take, I don't know, what did we put it out, 30 days, 60 days for bid? You know, this is a 6-month to 12-month plan, and I would defer that question a little bit to Doug, but that's my thinking anyhow.
I mean, a 10-year plan is going to take close to 12 months to complete.
Okay,
So to my point, if we wait until after the election of a new council, and then we need another year or so or more to do a 10-year plan, we're getting to that point where a council might start saying, well, let's wait until the next council comes in. I don't support waiting.
Fine. Mr. Danielson? Or did you have, Mr. Signature? Mr. Bush?
Yeah, I mean, we're just getting a quote here, so I yield my time.
Yeah, we're getting a quote, but again, we're talking about spending $120,000 to get a 10-year plan when we can certainly wait until a new council is seated and they can be a part of that making process of what that comprehensive plan should look like. But that being said, any more comments? Seeing none, will the clerk read a roll?
Mr. Bush?
Yay.
Mr. Danielson?
Yes.
Mr. Sickinger?
Yes.
Dr. Waldman?
Yes.
And Mayor Walker?
Yes. Okay, item O, to solicit approval for professional services to architecturally engineer a new town hall. And based on the fact that we got that $500,000 appropriation and we in the pike to get another one, I think it's appropriate for us to now submit that out there for bid. I'll make that motion. Is there a second? Is there a second to make the
I'll second.
approval? Okay. Yeah, we got that first tranche of, well, not first tranche, we got that first appropriation of $500,000. Like I said, in the federal budget, we have an appropriation line item of $1.6 million. When the president signs that budget, if we're any luck and we don't get kicked out, we have approximately $2.1 million coming to the town in order to build this new town hall complex. We've already spent some money on some land purchases. I think we're right in line with getting it done. We need the new office space. There's no question about it. As far as the design of the actual building, that will be done the architectural design that we approve when we get it back from the bids. Mr. Sickinger.
Yeah. I seconded because I'm certainly not against the idea of a new town hall, and frankly, I don't think it doesn't, besides staff time, which obviously is very limited, I feel it does not hurt us we are not obligating anything. And I think it's important that the public know that we're not tearing down the current town hall, since that was a rumor that was going around for a while. So, look, part of me feels like this is a little bit cart before the horse. I know we need the space. I know the money is coming. I know we're trying to allocate that. And I think no matter what we do, this project is going to take longer than everyone thinks it's going to, even when you think it's going to take longer than you think it's going to, kind of thing. Which is why I don't mind continuing to take steps, right? Like, we're not even obligating the funds. We're not saying what we're going to do yet. I think it's important also that we continue to hear from the community on this, because if it is going to be something that's going to be here in 50 years, towards your point, Mr. Mayor, that residents certainly spoke up about the appearance of the engineering concept art that was not intended to be the final architected drawing of, the perfect building, to be clear. And I don't know if we certainly don't need it like literally today, but we definitely are going to need it. So the challenge is, how do we carefully get there without putting the cart before the horse? And I'm not the person to answer that question. The only other thing I wanted to ask, and it was asked to me, and I didn't have an answer. Do we have a formal needs assessment that's been done on this? Or is that part of the?
Wait a minute, what are you asking?
If there was a formal needs assessment that was done.
Yeah, I mean,
as part of
the
that.
formal need is, we got people doing 2 and 3 jobs.
Oh,
in
that's
the-
like a project manager, like it's a needs assessment.
Yeah, I'm saying, it's not rocket science, Mr. Sickinger. We have 2 and 3 people doing the same job, doing double jobs. We can't hire any more people to do a job, and we have going on almost a $10 million budget. I mean, yes,
I know, I understand.
there is a need
And
for council.
that's not
town space.
that's not what a needs assessment is, and that's like going to someone and saying,
not
"Do you
gonna
have a?"
spend- you wanna
hold
spend
on,
money
Mr.
on that?
Mayor. I'm trying really hard not to interrupt you, but you got to let me finish.
Well, you are
It's like
interrupting.
going to someone who's trying to start a big project and saying, "Do you have a project plan?" And they say, "Yes," to finish the project. That's not a project plan, right? I'll yield just because I know that both Courtney and Bill probably.
Good, Mr. Bush, you have any comments?
Yeah, I mean, this is very, very preliminary. I mean, we're getting just bids.
Right.
Then we have to decide if we're gonna spend bids. There's all kinds of other, I mean, this is just,
Putting it out there. Mr. Wallman, Dr. Wallman?
Yes, this is just the beginning, the first step. And by soliciting bids, we'll have a better idea of what it may cost to try to build a new town hall. I just have a question about terminology, just for public awareness, that it's referred to as using a design-build project delivery method. Could Mr. Dennis or Mr. Poland, could you elaborate on what that term means?
No, I can tell you what it means. It means that we're gonna have a hire architect to come with a design. This design, if we select one, then that same firm that submitted the design will then be the general contractor to submit to build the project. And that's how we can get the actual cost estimates from that. Okay? Mr. Danielson.
Okay, well, if I was to be a naysayer here, I would say, why don't we push this to the next election, the next council, right? I
To
mean,
submit, to get quotes for,
same thing we just did, right?
no, to get quotes.
Same thing you just did. I didn't interrupt you, Mr. Mayor.
All right.
If I wanted to be a naysayer, I would just say push this to the next council meeting. But I'm not going to say that because I don't think that's appropriate, because we're elected to a term. And this is something that we need to do. First of all, this is part of my day job, okay? You're in my wheelhouse now. I can answer anything you want to know about design build correctly and detailed. I can answer need programming, which is called architectural programming, which is why you hire an architect to interview staff and talk to the needs so we determine exactly what we need. And I'm all for doing that. Unfortunately, the rendering by a civil engineer was put out in the market prematurely, and so people think we're building a storage unit, or what looks like a storage unit. That is not architecturally designed. That is not even going to come close to what anything we will probably build, and it got a lot of the folks kind of riled up, I think. So I want to be very clear tonight that this is something we're going to move forward. We're going to take our time. It's a 2 to 3 year project, and I might also mention that we have a 2,400 square foot asset that we are not utilizing, which is right next to our municipal building that we have leased out. That is something we could use to bridge our need until we get to the building and the size that we want to build. Now, there are a lot of details involved there. Again, should be worked out in a workshop. And when we do that, I would invite all the folks to come out, and then we can really clearly educate them on what we're trying to do, which, A, referring to your comments, Mr. Sickinger, nobody's ever, at least on this council, I think I'm pretty safe they're going to knock down our building that we're in now. That was never going to happen. So let's put that to rest right now. So there are a lot of details here. We've got to take these steps prudently. We're looking 24 to 36 months before anybody moves into a building at this point, in my estimation. And design build is a long-term process. And architects are backed up. They're taking forever because of the workload and the lack of architects in the community, in the market. There are a lot of specific things that come with this that are what will delay this project. So we need to be fiscally responsible and understand. And great, we got the $500,000. We may get 1.6. When we get it, that's great. That means we're putting that into this project as time goes. But unfortunately, the estimated costs are only going to go up as we sit here today. So this is something we're approving. I'm 100% behind it, but there's a lot of details that need to be worked out.
Thank you, Mr. Danielson. I agree. There is a lot of details we have to work out. That's why we're going to hopefully move forward to put that out. And during the workshop sessions, we can get into more detail, what we're actually looking for, as in the design of the building, and then the people can hear what the council says and what we get input from the community if we want to. Have a special meeting just to get input from the community of what we need to see. But we all agree that the need is there. Will the clerk read the roll, please?
Mr. Bush?
Yay.
Mr. Danielson?
Yay.
Mr. Sickinger?
Yes.
Dr. Waldman?
Yes.
And Mayor Walker?
Yes. Okay. Item P. It's item P, to submit encroachment permits for behalf of the Irmo Future Growth in the signal traffic box wrapping project. That's part of the things that you see. Do you have that up on screen? Okay. There you go. We adopted a new logo and a new font for our town, Irmo, and there it is. And from that, we want to go around and wrap the signal boxes to reflect that new logo and that new feel for the town. This is something that will cost a good penny, and I believe the Irmo Future Growth is behind this project, so they'll use their money first until it runs out, which is approximately, $36,000 you guys got left over? And to do this, and wrap all of the signal boxes in town with this, whatever the style that they picked. Is that the only one? We had several. Can you show the other ones? Yeah. There's several different styles of wrapping the boxes, as you see there before us.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
I'll second.
Mr. Signature made the motion, Dr. Wallman seconded. Is there any other comments?
Oh, yeah. First of all, from council, I certainly want to thank Beach Levelin. He poured a ton of time and effort and work into this, and certainly a business owner and member of the community that really loves Irmo. It's hard to miss that, right, when you go to a shop. So something I'm really excited about is also just the beautification. It takes something that's plain and green or generic and turns it into Irmo and gives you a little bit of a better taste. It's been a long time coming, so I'm glad that it's here, and I encourage you to vote yes.
Okay. Dr. Wallman?
I agree with everything that Mr. Sickinger just said.
Okay, Dr. Bush, Mr. Bush.
Mirror those comments, and definitely want to thank the Irmo Future Growth Corporation.
And Mr. Danielson.
I agree.
Okay, will clerk read the roll, please?
Mr. Bush?
Yay.
Mr. Danielson?
Yes.
Mr. Sickinger?
Yes.
Dr. Waldman?
Yes.
And Mayor Walker?
Yes. Approval to establish the First Responders Memorial Advisory Committee. We talked about that at our workshop, and we thought we could get it done sooner than later if we put a committee together to work on that. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Sickinger, is there any comments?
Yeah, obviously, something that, from a big picture perspective, it's something that we're going to be passionate about and something that we're going to be in favor of, I would expect. The only thing that I noticed, and I would hope that you would be amenable to this, Mr. Mayor, is to create an opportunity for one of the council members as well, in addition to yourself, to be on that committee. Because just so that we have a little balance of, and I'm not volunteering myself, I'm volunteering someone else in my mind, but if a council member would like to join you, that's the only change.
Any council member can attend the meetings and discuss it, as far as that.
No, I was talking about it as a committee member.
Oh, yeah, okay. Any council member can be a committee member. If you want to do that, we have to keep an odd number for voting purposes. So if we add another council member, which is fine,
I would just stay with you, just add.
we have to add another person, public
Yeah, and
citizen, rather.
right, and just for the public, it's 2 members from the Irmo Police Department, 2 from IFD, 1 town employee, 1 mayor, as if we had 2. And then I would just suggest then we add 1 council member and 2 town of Irmo residents.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Got that, Courtney? Okay, great. Any other discussion? Mr. Bush?
I think this speaks for itself.
Okay, Dr. Wallman?
I agree, and I agree with Eric's addition of
Okay.
members.
And Mr. Bush? Mr. Danielson?
Yeah, I'm in full agreement.
Okay, great. Will clerk read the roll?
Mr. Bush?
Yay.
Mr. Danielson?
Yes.
Mr. Sickinger?
Yes.
Dr. Waldman?
Yes.
And Mayor Walker?
Yes. Approval to close portions of St. Andrews Road for the orchestra. Is there a motion for approval?
So move?
A second. Mr. Sickinger, you have any discussion?
Nope, I'm in favor.
Mr. Bush?
In favor.
Good. Any other discussion? Clerk read the roll.
Bush?
Yay.
Mr. Danielson?
Yes.
Mr. Sickinger?
Yes.
Dr. Waldman?
Yes.
And Mayor Walker?
Yes. Item S, appointments to the orchestra, 1 expired term. Is there a motion to make a nomination for appointment?
I would make a motion to nominate Sandra Fulmer.
I'll second that motion.
Okay. All right. Is there any other nominations? Any other nominations? Being none, all in favor? Say yes.
Yes.
All opposed? Unanimous. Congratulations, Ms. Fulmer. You are now on the Orchestra Commission as a voting member. Thank y'all very much for hanging through this whole session with us. And citizens, I apologize for having such a large, long, drawn-out meeting, but it is what it is when you only have one meeting a month. We have a lot of information to get through. We had first readings on a lot of stuff. There'll be some more back and forth debate. Our next meeting is the 18th of July. So at that point, is there any presentation by citizens? Anybody wants to come up? Come on up, Mr. Hoots.
And Councilman, and is this on?
Yeah.
In light of my comments, many of which I didn't intend to be sniping, but you folks limited me to 3 minutes. I'm an old school teacher. That didn't come across the way I intended it to. I taught school for many, many years, and I spoke in 55-minute increments. So 3 minutes is almost impossible. But the big issue is multifaceted. This council, I believe it was this council that changed the code to allow you to pass an ordinance with 2 votes. It used to be 3. That gave the public a chance to come back and kind of get a feel for what was going on. We lost that with the 2 votes. The language I found very, very open-ended. In that if you did the Zoom, the town pay for all of the Zoom slots that's going to be necessary for the number of people that might sign up to be a party to that. Is that everybody have to come here to town hall? Those type things. I was glad to hear Mr. Danielson change it to defer instead of table. Robert's rule says that when you table, it takes 2/3 to bring it off the table. Other than that, it's dead. So look at the rules and regulations. I think if you go back and look, I know you talked about the legislature, we talked about the federal government. Anytime you mention government, you know, the rules are off the table. But in any event, look at what's happening with Zoom. There's discussions, there's arguments. You're not seeing people voting on spending other people's money in those meetings. They're discussing it, but when it comes to voting, I don't believe you're seeing that in Zoom. One issue for the Okra Strut, with the just past experience, with the amusements, make darn sure you got good insurance and that the town is a lost payee if anything happens. Also, the cash issue with credit cards, real simple solution. Every bank in town would love to put ATM machines in the Okra Strut on site, and anybody that's got a credit card walk up to that ATM and get money, cash money, to buy those tickets. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bowman.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'd just like to follow up as chairman of the Juneteenth Celebration Committee. I'd like to follow up on Mr. Frazier's comments earlier. Basically, I just want to take just a few minutes and publicly thank the town for its work and support for this year's Juneteenth celebration. I believe that the event was a complete success and that it provided education and through the Gullah Geechee performance of Ron Days, thanks to Young's Chapel AME Church, as well as the workshop on wills, estate planning, and home ownership. part of the staple of what we're trying to do with Juneteenth. How quickly I can read this. Our historical military recognition, we had about 105 individuals that we had researched for about 6 months, African Americans from Irma, World War I, World War II, and it was just fascinating, some of the information that we got into and the posting, and we had draft cards and all kind of stuff for those people that weren't there. Thanks for the committee that helped put that together, and the proclamation on Robert Curtis Corley, first African-American police officer for the town of Irmo, as well as the community church recognition. We want to pay, especially pay recognition and homage to those community churches that served as African-American support system during the eras of Jim Crow laws, racial segregation, and civil rights. As the chairman of this year's event, I specifically want to recognize the town administrator and his staff, as well as the public service department. And I kind of want to linger here just a minute. They did an excellent job, and I really want to thank them for their work. You know, it's kind of like I play golf, and when you go to a golf course, you know how well the golf course is maintained because when you hear lawnmowers and when you hear things going on around there, weed eaters and things, you know somebody's doing some work. And I'd say that my time spent around Irmo, I'm always hearing, I'm seeing the four-wheelers going up and down the road. I'm seeing, you know, I'm hearing the blowers. I'm hearing all kinds of stuff going on. And when we needed anything for the Juneteenth event, Mr. Klein and the staff, they were all over us and helping us to do things and blocking the roads off, partial blocking, then moving everything into place. So I really want to just take a second and say we really appreciate that, what you did to help us with the event. And so and due to the lateness of the hour, I'm not going to go into reading the rest of this because I was probably half asleep when I wrote it anyway, and I hear a buzz going off. But again, thank you to the town of Irmo. Juneteenth is a special event. It is not like any other festival in Irmo. It has a special significance, and we want to provide unity for the town. We want to provide education and a historical component to it as well. Thank you for your time.
Anybody else to address council? Mr. Ward.
All right, my name's Mike Ward. I spoke to you earlier as the Okra Strut Commission Chair. We're going to cover the logo up on the shirt because I speak to you today now as a citizen. I want to start and let you know that professionally, my primary income comes from the cybersecurity company that I own. We specialize in helping small businesses lock their businesses down. That's the first qualification. The second qualification is I have earned the Distinguished Toastmasters Award through the Toastmasters International program. I was a tenured member of nearly 10 years before I stepped down from my leadership role, where in my leadership role, not only as a member, but leading others, we led, at this point, thousands of Zoom meetings. And so I had a lot of discussions with clubs, with organizations, with businesses that wanted to take and add a virtual component to their meetings. I think it's very possible to add it. Y'all mentioned many, many things that need to happen beforehand. But specifically, when you get into your workshop and you start looking at things, I heard y'all discuss today extreme situations, such as somebody was in a car accident and they're laid up in the ER. I think that's forgivable to miss the meeting period. I don't think that's something where you need to require them to show up. I do think it's very reasonable that you're traveling for work and you're required to be there for your primary source of income, that you're allowed to have virtual access to the meeting. The other thing is, if you do this, when you do this, if it is a matter of when and not if, just be sure that you have limitations in the language. I love to think the best of everybody, but I have a lot of personal experience with every meeting, certain individual has an extenuating circumstance. Now, I also understand that y'all are elected and that come election time, they may not get elected again if that's the case, but they're doing the constituents that put them in that seat a disservice if they do have that. So make sure you put those limitations in place. And then look at our friends with Lexington and Richland 5, not criticizing them, but when we were going through COVID and we had virtual board meetings, there were issues with certain board members that were doing what we call face muting. That's where you turn your video off. Because to the mayor's point, we didn't know who was actually voting or speaking on that person's behalf. And so I definitely think putting more thought into it in a workshop and hashing out those details and bringing the public a more comprehensive plan on how you're going to do virtual would be a very smart thing.
Anybody else like to address council? Thank you so much for hanging in here with us. We hardly ever have long meetings, and I just really appreciate y'all hanging in there with us. Thank you, Mr. Dan. Mr. Dan.
Yeah, just real quick, this won't take long. I need to go on record and give Wade Deloach and Irma Outreach a shout out. Recently, we had to check on an elderly lady in her house. Family members couldn't get a hold of her, that kind of thing. We had to bust through her door. Actually, Sergeant Hugie was working. He's not climbing through a window. So I called Wade and I said, we need some help. We gotta get this lady's door fixed. And with a couple of days, not only they have it fixed, but they also paid her light bill for her. So they did a very good job. I think they're doing a great job. So just want to give them a shout out.
Thank you. Anybody else? Thank y'all for hanging in with us. We have an executive session. There is no discussion, but we do have an executive session. For all intents and purposes, the meeting is over. Hope it doesn't take all night. Huh? Nah, we need it. I mean, it's not gonna take that long. All right, and we make a motion to go into executive session for the administrator's annual review. Is there a second? Is there, been properly moved second? All in favor say aye. We're gonna go into executive session. We're not gonna take any votes back there, but this, Anna, we are back from executive session. Okay. That's fine, I'm looking at it, that's all. Oh, okay, I got you. Thank you. We got you. We're back from our executive session, no votes were taken. Is there a motion to
I so move.
adjourn?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? The ayes, in the opinion of the chairs, the ayes have it. Bush?
Hold on, I want the third base coach to call to chime in. Third base.
There you go. Meeting adjourned.